Hello, everyone. This is Joanna Avin with your emotional intelligence coach. And I am so excited this evening. I'm going to be bringing a powerful author and speaker, motivational coach as well. And so I'm just excited of what we're going to be doing moving forward. And so what we're going to be talking about is we're going to talk about his personal story and how he was able to go from trauma to triumph. And so I hope that you are ready. I hope that you grab a pen and paper. He's going to give you some specific things in which you're going to be able to choose triumph versus trauma. So if you just give me one moment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring him right on the stage. And his name is Fernando Lennon. He is an educator with the school district of Palm Beach County. He is an author. He's a motivational speaker, mentor, and his whole growth and everything is centered on resilience and growth, whether it is with personal development and mentoring the community and individuals and also children and teachers alike. But his mission is to remind others that pain does not define destiny. Perseverance does. I want you all to help me welcome Fernando Lennon to our emotional intelligence series. Fernando, please join us this evening. Please join us. How are you this evening?
I'm pretty well. How are you doing?
I am blessed. I am truly blessed and I can't complain at all. I'm so excited to have you on Emotional Intelligence series. And one of the things that I really loved about your story is that you understand the value of doing and making some of the hard decisions. But before we go into all of that, I want people to get to know you a little bit, right? Can you just I'm just going to ask you some quick, like rapid fire questions. Okay. And just like yay or nay. First question is hot 105 or 99 jam?
99 jam.
Okay. Coffee, your morning routine, coffee or a cold plunge?
A cold plunge.
Oh, wow. Okay. Your soundtrack. What are you listening to? What's one song that can pull you out of a dark moment instantly?
Never would have made it.
Okay. Kirk Franklin or Ty Tribbett?
Ty Tribbett.
Okay. As an athlete, you as an athlete as well, max reps or one rep max?
Max reps.
Okay, all right. And if you can just give me three words that can describe your mindset right about now.
Hopeful. Enthused. Blessed.
All right. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. What is one thing? Now you can answer this a little bit deeper, but not too long. Okay. What is one thing you do now that would have terrified you 5 years ago?
Public speaking.
Oh, public speaking. Okay. What is one person in your life who never let you quit?
Myself.
Yourself. That is interesting. Okay. All right. And then one more question. Discipline. This is one for you to think about. Discipline or inspiration? Which one gets you out of bed and why?
Discipline gets me out of bed. And the reason why I chose discipline is because when you have the discipline to stay with a routine, that motivation follows.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because we're creatures of habit. So you have the discipline to stay on the routine and you stick with it. There's nothing you can do or you can't do.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love that you said that because one of the things that, I say a lot in a lot of the classes that I facilitate is that um, discipline picks you up when motivation drops you off.
That's right.
Right. And so what you're saying is absolutely true, because motivation and inspiration, those are feelings, right? And they can make you feel one way one day, and then the next day you feel completely different. And
Right.
discipline is what is going to get you to the end. So I know that you have your book, that you have been around on different podcasts. We've been seeing you. If you guys don't know anything about Fernando, please check him out. He is on Instagram. He is on Instagram. You can find him at Mr. underscore F underscore Linen. This will be in the notes, on YouTube as well. He's Fernando Linen on Facebook, which is going to also be in the notes section, and also F Linen 954 on TikTok. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit later why you definitely need to be following him, because he is releasing things every day related to what we're going to talk about today, and you don't want to miss, because it's going to really make everything come full circle. And so, Fernando, I mean, I got to talk to you, and I know everybody wants to hear. You are the author of a beautiful memoir, Perseverance Over Pain, a survivor's story. And so this is a powerful memoir rooted in your real life adversity. So this is not your nonfiction. Like
Right.
this is you. And it talks about the determination that you had to do to overcome some different challenges. Can you just tell us just a little, just snippet, just give them a little bit to munch on, regarding your story and this memoir?
Well, I think the biggest issue was the fact that my family split up. When my father and my mother split up, that basically set everything in motion as far as a lot of the trauma that I experienced.
Wow.
From my parents splitting up to witnessing one of my parents deteriorating every day based on the drug use that he was engaging in, to multiple deaths that took place in my family. Um, as I got older, I lost some friends due to some unfortunate circumstances that I mentioned in my book. To when I became a professional, when I became a teacher, I ended up
Yeah.
losing some students that I love dearly. It was a lot of trauma. But at the end of the day, I know everything happens for a reason, and
Yeah.
that trauma, every bit of the trauma that I experienced and that was around me, I turn it around and I use it as motivators to go out and inspire everyone that I came in contact with and everyone that I talk to on a daily basis. I'm always trying to be as positive as possible because you never know what someone is going through.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dig in a little bit into the book, because you're talking about the different traumas that you experienced, and there were different parts, in your book where you talked about. Listen, you are the product of military, of military parents. You were on the base, and how was life for you then, and what age were you?
So from birth all the way until 8 years old, I was in the military family, and everything inside of the house was chaotic between my parents. But outside of the house, as far as my sister and I in the community, it was pretty good. We lived the typical military lifestyle. We had things. We had everything we wanted. We didn't want for anything. Um, we had some good days, but then we had some troublesome days.
Yeah. Yeah. And those troublesome days, you are around how old at this time? 8 years old?
So I started noticing there were some issues that were taking place between my parents around 4 and 5.
Okay. Wow.
But then around 8 and 9, that's when things came to a head, and my mother decided to leave my father.
So here it is. You are living the military life. And it seems like, you know, you're living in this almost like secluded environment, right?
Right.
Were you
Right.
on base? Were you living on base, or
Yes.
were you off? Okay, so
Yes.
you're in this like secluded environment, and there are things, and you're able to go to, you have this certain level of secluded life,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden, you start to notice things that are happening in your house, right?
Right.
And you said probably at about 4 or 5, you begin to notice some of those things. If you can look back at that now, because, I am an emotional intelligence coach. And one of the things that I talk about is how subconscious emotions drive us into making and making certain decisions and actions about our life. And a lot of the times when I'm meeting with clients and we're doing the emotional rooting, and we're
Hmm.
finding, what is the emotional root and the word that has been driving certain actions, a lot of it stemmed from childhood. A lot
Right.
of it stemmed from childhood. And so, can you take us on a journey emotionally? If you can think about what were some of the emotions that you were feeling 4 or 5 years old, that you just, that now that you looked at it, maybe in that moment, you didn't know you were feeling that way. But what were some of the things that you were feeling in that moment? And did it begin to have an impact on you even at, probably about 7, 8 years old, when you actually begin to get in school? Were you able to see that?
Well, I started questioning a lot of things that I saw, but I didn't question it outwardly.
Mm-hmm.
Internally, I had questions that I didn't feel that were appropriate for me to ask because
Yeah.
my parents were pretty much old school. A child stays in a child's place. But at the end of the day, and this message may hit home to a lot of people that are watching
Yeah.
as well, especially if they're parents, young
Yeah.
parents. As parents, we tend to think that our kids are not watching or listening to the things that are taking place around us, but speaking from, a child's point of view,
Yeah.
we can see it. We see
Yeah.
it. We know what's going on for the most part. And even if you don't think we know something.
Yeah.
And the worst thing you can do is put a child in a situation where they have to figure it out on their own.
Yeah. And so here it is at 4, 5, 4 to 8 years old. You don't really know what is happening, but you know that something isn't right.
Right. Right.
Does this begin to impact your grades at school? Like once you actually got in school, the turmoil between your family, did any of your education begin to slip as a result of that uncertainty before we actually get to one of the other bigger parts of your story?
Not at that time.
Okay.
Not at
So
that
you were,
time.
I
It
think that's so interesting. Please continue.
school was at that time when my parents were still together,
Yes.
school was my safe haven, you know.
Oh, wow.
I get to talk to people. I get to converse with people that are outside of my household. Um, Try to learn. I didn't really realize I had an issue with focusing at that time, but I did,
Mm, wow.
So I was very hyperactive. Um, yeah, I just had an opportunity to just be free when I was
Yeah.
away from my household. But then going back home when I'm with my parents, it was almost like a Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield fight. You
Wow.
know, you know, it's a back and forth. It's like, all right, today my mom's tripping, or today my dad's tripping, and they going back and
Yeah.
forth. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But at the
Wow.
end of the day, you almost had to choose a side, emotionally. And
Yeah.
as a boy, a little boy, naturally you're gonna choose your father's side.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
absolutely, because that's what you identify with the most. And so it definitely makes sense. And so let's fast forward a little bit.
mm,
So here it is now, you are 8 years old now, and all of a sudden one day, things come to a head. Can you talk to us a little bit about that day and what you remember from that day? What did you feel? What was going on in your mind? Let people know how that day really changed the trajectory of the next, what, few years, 8 years of your life almost.
So I was very confused because I didn't know the essential reason why my mother wanted to leave. Um, I was left to guess and come up with my own synopsis of why.
Yeah,
And when she got ready to leave, at the last second, I was like, you know what? Nah, I'm not leaving my dad. So I snatched away and I grabbed my dad's leg. I'm like, no, I'm not leaving my dad.
yeah,
Not at all. My dad was my hero at that time, He
yeah,
he used to be a sergeant in the army. So even though he wasn't in the army at that time, I still saw him as that sergeant. You know what I mean?
yeah.
As that pillar in our family, that rock. So I was like, no, I'm not leaving my dad at all.
Wow. And so here it is. You are, how old are you by this time?
So around 9. I had
Around
just
nine
turned
years
9.
old.
Hmm.
So here it is, you're 9 years old, and now the day comes, and were they in a disagreement where you just ended up saying, I'm gonna choose my dad, or how did that
No,
even get
no,
to that
she
place?
had already she had all our stuff packed already, ready to go,
Mhm.
waiting for the taxi downstairs. And she's getting ready to walk out of the door. I snatched away the last second.
At the
My
last minute.
my dad was, he was irate, like, you're not taking my kids, a little back and forth, not a little back and forth, a big back and forth. And
Yeah.
as she was getting ready to leave, I pulled away at the last second because
Wow.
I started to realize that this is real, As
Yeah.
a kid, you're like, nah, they're playing. Nah, they just
Yeah.
joking. Nah,
Can't
it's not
be.
real.
This can't be going on.
It's
Right.
not really what it is. But then when I realized it was serious, I was like, you know what? Nah, it's not going
Wow.
down that way.
Wow. Wow. And so let's fast forward a little bit. You decide that you are going to go with your father, right? And then just tell us just a little glimpse of what was happening during that time, where even now, even on Instagram and on Facebook and some of your other social media sites, you are showing some of the specific places of what you are about to reference. Can you give our viewers a little bit of insight into what you had to experience over some of just a little bit of the things that you had to experience over those next few years?
So from the ages of 9 all the way to 13 was hell on earth for me.
Mm,
It was hell on earth. And that may be lowballing it a bit. It was that bad. I've experienced some of the things that you wouldn't want to wish on your worst enemy as far as a kid is concerned. It being in between homes, like every few months, going from pillar to post,
mm,
eating out of dumpsters late at night because there's nothing else to eat or we don't have any money, sleeping outside, sleeping in seedy motels. I've seen a lot, and for any kid to see those things and to experience those things, according to society, that's the type of stuff that's supposed to ruin you, that's supposed to destroy you.
yeah. So you go from being in a two-parent home, getting meals every day, to now you are on the street, you're, you know, eating out of the garbage cans and things of that nature. What does that do to one's soul?
Hmm.
What did that do to your soul as you were going through that? How did that pierce your soul?
Actually going through it, it hurt, but what hurt the most was actually experiencing everything and feeling like there was no hope,
Mm,
that there was no light at the end of the tunnel.
yeah.
So after a couple of years, I embraced that lifestyle. I
Mm,
embraced being on the streets. I told myself after a while, hey, listen, this is gonna be my life. Hey, I might as well get used to it. So
wow.
I started to develop a routine with my father. And through those routines, through that discipline, believe it or not, I was able to accept it
Yeah.
and keep it moving. But I had my moments though. I had a moment when I was 12 where I have a chapter in my book called Suicide Mission.
Yes. And we were
And
going to get to that. Absolutely. Talk to us about that.
in suicide mission, I had enough, 12 years old. I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. And I was like, it was raining, it was late at night. And I said to myself, you know what? I think I've had enough. I
Yeah.
think I've reached my wits end, and I think it's time to go. So I
Yeah.
stood at the edge of um, this particular area. I'm not going to go into full detail. I would say
Please
that,
don't.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Please don't.
I
Yes.
was I was going to jump,
Yeah.
and the only saving grace that I had was a little common sense kicked in. I said to myself, you know what? If I jump and I don't die, and I paralyze myself, I'm gonna be paralyzed and homeless. Oh no, no. And then in the streets of Miami, if if you have a disability, or if you have something that's keeping you from being 100% health wise, you're a victim.
Yeah.
And I didn't have time to be a victim on the
Yeah.
streets of Miami. So I had to make sure I had all my limbs. I had to make sure that I was fully ready to go just in case something happened. And also, I thought about my dad.
Mm.
I thought about my dad. And I said to myself, you know what? If I kill myself, then what is my dad gonna do?
Mm. It's so interesting that you said that because you begin to take on the emotional dependency and almost equalizing with your father, like you had to be there for him versus he needed to be there for you.
Right.
And it's so interesting how sometimes trauma makes our where we are with our parents, it flips it. So now we find ourselves that we want to take care of them instead of them taking care of us. And so I find that so interesting that these are things where we end up equalizing with our parents, and then how that begins to play a role in our life moving forward, always feeling like you were the one that had to end up taking care of him. But there might be somebody that's watching, Fernando. Even right now, I see people that's in the chat right now, overcoming that wilderness firsthand. Defeated two horns is just commenting right now. So you got the youth, and so there's a couple people already commenting in the chats. But my thing to you is there might be somebody out here that's watching, and maybe they are at that crossroad because right now there's a lot that is going on in the world right now. I
Right.
mean, people, there is gross fear. There people, don't know unfortunately, 1 in 4 Americans are dealing with, number one, anxiety, depression, and some type of substance abuse. That's impacting over 60 million Americans are going through some type of mental issue. You were in that same place. What is something that you were 12 years old at the time? There are parents that are listening to this right now. What are some of the warning signs? What are some of the things that you think you can let them know if they have a child? What are some of the things that they should look for? Because you're also in the education system. And unfortunately, you were going to school every day and no one was the wiser of what was happening in your life during that time. And so I just want you to speak to the parents really quickly, and even for the teachers that may have a student that is going through that. What are some of the things that they can watch out for?
So one of the main things to watch out for is a kid that is ultra quiet.
Mm.
Oftentimes in education, the teachers look at the students that are causing the mischief in the
Yeah.
class, but they lose sight of those kids that are purposely being so quiet and following every expectation in the classroom because they're not making waves. I was one of those kids. I didn't make any waves in class for the most part
Oh,
because I didn't want to get suspended because my main motivation for going to school was a free breakfast and free lunch.
yeah.
Without that free breakfast and free lunch, I probably wouldn't have made it. And the fact of the matter is, there were so many teachers that dropped the ball from the ages of 9 all the way to 13. I didn't have one teacher until I got into 8th grade ask me how I was doing or what was going on or anything. I wore the same clothes. Um, I had, I had bladder issues, so overnight sometimes I would soil myself and still walk all the way to school, after trying to wash up in the bathrooms in McDonald's. But I knew that I had a smell behind me. You know what I mean? I knew that my clothes weren't clean. But at the end of the day, no teacher or administrator was concerned about anything as long as I wasn't causing any behavior issues. As a matter of fact, I couldn't read. I couldn't
Wow.
read. But they passed me along every grade. I was never retained. Now you tell me what's wrong with that picture. I can't read.
Everything.
I knew basic math dealing with money, but other
Yeah.
than that, outside of that, I wasn't good academically at all.
Wow.
But they just pushed me along because I didn't cause any behavior issues. I found a way to make it seem as if I knew how to do the work. I didn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
basically, I ran game on the system, and they just pushed me along.
Yeah.
You know, and and as a parent, talk to your kids. When I was on the street with my dad, we didn't converse about the things that were important, like what's on your mind. You okay? Let's talk about what's going on. It was no conversations at all about those type of things. It was all about survival. All right, when you get out of school, you need to do this. If it's raining, you need to do that. If I don't show up here, you go and do this. If you're hungry, you need to go to the Shell gas station and do this at this particular time at night when the lines for the lotto are long and no one can see you. So I was taught how to survive.
Yeah.
I wasn't taught how to come to terms with my feelings. I wasn't taught how to pray. I wasn't taught how to seek God. I was taught how to survive.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you think, because we know that emotions drive 80 to 90% of the decisions that we make in life, and only 34% of the time are we able to accurately identify and recognize what we're feeling in the moment? How has that survival mode, how did that impact you as an adult?
Hmm.
How did the relationship with your father, we didn't even talk about all of that, but how did some of the things that happened in your past, how did it impact you as an adult? What were some of the actions?
I will say this, and this may sound crazy to those that are viewing the podcast, but a lot of the things that I went through, that survival mode, a lot of it helped me. It helped me to persevere through any foolishness that may arise. It helped me push my kids to be the best version of themselves they can be.
Mm,
Um, it helped me push my students when I was teaching in the classroom. It helped me push my students to be the best version of themselves they could be. Because when I first started teaching, I didn't know what I was doing. I was in the classroom freestyling, to be honest. I was. I was in the classroom freestyling, just shooting off the
wow.
hip. But
Wow.
then when I noticed that when I was able to see myself and the kids and
Yeah.
actually taking the time out to speak to them to find out that, hey, some of their situations are similar to the situations that I went through,
Yeah.
then I started to notice that, hey, listen, I need to be the teacher that I wanted when I was going through everything I was going through.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I had to tap into a part of myself that I didn't even realize was there.
Wow.
You
I
know,
think it's so interesting that you say that, because that is not the normal path of someone that is going to have gone through the trauma. Because had you gotten any therapy, any, okay, all right. So that's not the path for someone that started off in a two-parent home, now is on the street. We didn't even talk about yet what happened after that, But you're saying fast forward 30 years later, you actually use that survival to help you. And there's so many people that are still stuck in survival mode. They can't see past, tomorrow. They don't have big goals. They don't have big dreams, because of that survival mindset. I need to just hold on and survive for the next day. That kind of scarcity mindset. And that impacts them in relationships, that impacts them in their families, that impacts them financially. That scarcity mindset. I just need to do what I need to do to survive in the moment. The only thing that I can say is, you guys don't try this at home. That's all I'm
Right.
saying, because
Right.
I truly believe, Fernando, and we're going to get to, what ended up really shifting your life a little bit, but I truly believe it was nothing but the grace of God that was on your life,
Right.
that even though so many things happen that we don't even have time to talk about in this cast today, because of God's grace that was on your life, because of the calling that has on that God has placed you to work with other educators and work as a mentor for the community. This is why you were preserved. So I would not tell anybody don't try what Fernando did, because
Yeah.
there was definitely a grace and a protection that was on his life. So Fernando, here it is now. You are, you are with your father. You're still going to school. Teachers are not recognizing. What was that pivotal point where your life began to take a change
For the better
for the
or
better?
okay.
For the better, because we don't want to go let them read the book for
Okay.
the other stuff. So
Okay.
let's
Okay. Okay. Well, I had a family member step up to the plate and finally come get me after all those years.
Wow.
My uncle, man, listen, my uncle saved my life. My
Wow.
uncle saved my life. And if it wasn't for my uncle, I wouldn't be here. I know for a fact I wouldn't be here because
Wow.
of the direction that I was going. Somebody that was doing something negative in the community probably would have scooped me up and had me crashing out.
Yeah.
I was that
Yeah.
far gone at that point where I had just started to give up, but then when God sensed that in me, that's when he sent my uncle to come get me.
Wow. So this sounds like this was a trajectory moment. And I think we all have different trajectory moments in our life where we're like, if something does not give in the next who knows what, Fernando, there might be people that are listening right now and they might be at that transition place right now. And they're like, if something doesn't give, what I'm experiencing right now is too heavy. I'm depressed. I am anxious all the time. I can't sleep at night. Every time it seems like I take 3 steps forward, I take another 5 steps back. What is something that you can share with them about your experience that can give them the hope? One of the words that you said that you feel at the top of this cast.
Well, I will say this. There's there isn't any activity, there isn't any drug, there isn't any substance that could alleviate those pains.
Hmm.
But the main thing you got to do is tap into the source.
Hmm.
You gotta grow a connection with God and not one of those surface level connections either.
Hmm.
When I first got off of the street, I tried to get into the church, but it wasn't authentic.
Hmm.
You know, I just wanted to go through the motions so I could take part in communion. My
Yeah.
cousin told my uncle's son, my cousin.
I love it,
Um,
please.
I when I started to go to church with them, he told me he was like, "Man, listen, you can't take part in this because you didn't do this." I was like, "Oh yeah, all right." So I thought about it. You know, I chewed on it for a couple of weeks. I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and let me take a walk down that aisle so I can get this, so I can get this Welch's uh, grape juice and this cracker. You know,
Yes.
so I did it. And I even joined the choir, but my intentions weren't pure. You know,
Mm.
there was a young lady in the choir that I really wanted to talk to. Because I'm like, oh yeah, she look good. Let me go. Let me get in this. Let me
Let
get
me
in this
holler.
right quick.
Yeah.
So I did it, and I felt bad about it because it was like, man, this is not why I'm in church. I'm
Mhm.
going to choir rehearsal. The youth choir rehearsal. I'm over there get my Mac on, and at no point did I say to myself, you know what? Yeah, I'm good, because I knew I wasn't doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
wasn't until I really tapped into the source and I really actually tried to study the word and try to get ingratiated in it that I noticed a change. And I noticed that God delivered me through
Yeah.
everything that I went through in order to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
It
So
took, it
there's
took
a
years. It took years for me to actually really tap in. You know what I mean?
I want to go back to that years because there's for some people they are in that painful place right now, but there's always purpose to the pain.
Right.
There's always purpose to the pain. And so you were talking about, can you just for anyone that is listening, they're wondering, well, what happened to your father? What happened? I know your uncle came in, and
Mhm.
can you just let them know what happened to your father that also like shifted your world, and how you had to heal from that even as an adult?
So, my father was arrested for possession of narcotics. And some people like to think it was divine intervention, but my father used to tell me that he thinks that my grandmother and my uncle put the cops up on game about where my father was going to be at a certain time. So,
Wow.
my father was a conspiracy theorist. Everything was a conspiracy. Everybody out to get him. You know what I mean? So he was like, yeah, they probably knew they knew where I was going to be at. So they set me up. So
Yeah.
when he got arrested, he was able to reach a moment of clarity. And when he appeared before the judge, they gave him an ultimatum like, listen, we got you for a small amount of dope, and you got two options. You can go to detox voluntarily. We can't make you go to detox, but you can go voluntarily, or we can release you and we catch you again. We're gonna bump up these charges.
Yeah.
So, one thing led to the next, and he decided to go to detox. But there was one caveat. The caveat was, hey, listen, I need somebody to take care of my son. You know,
Mm.
my son's out there. I need. So my uncle, stepped up to the plate and said, I'll get him. I'll take him.
So beautiful. At what point in time, because the work that I do on emotional intelligence,
Hmm.
some of people's biggest issues has to do with their childhood
Right.
and their relationship with their mother, their relationship with their father. And a lot of the times the subconscious emotions that are driving us comes from those experiences that just happened to us where we couldn't articulate, I don't want to be in this position. I don't like what you're doing. I feel unsafe. I feel fear. I feel overwhelmed. I feel vulnerable. I feel angry. They're not in a position where they can express those emotions to their parents. And so sometimes that ends up turning into bitterness, that ends up turning into resentment, that ends up where they get older. Now they don't talk to their parents or their relationship is strained. And so a lot of this happens because of unresolved emotions from childhood. As an adult, when you look back at your relationship with your parents, now with the eyes that you have now, right?
Mhm.
How is your relationship with your parents? And were you able to express some of those things that you weren't able to express as an 8-year old, as a 12-year old, as an 18-year old? How is that?
I can't believe you just asked me that. Lord have mercy. All right. And the reason why I say I can't believe you just asked me that, because that's deep. But I'm
It
gonna take it there.
is,
I'm gonna take it there. So I
of
won't I
course.
won't share I won't share about my dad, because that's
Okay,
in the book and that's a big piece.
absolutely.
So for those that haven't read the book yet,
You need
definitely
to read the book. You need
check
to
that
get
out.
the book. It's on Amazon.
Yeah.
What other places is it on, Fernando? I know for sure it's on
Amazon,
Amazon. Amazon.
Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Books a Million. It's almost
All the
everywhere.
all the platforms.
All the platforms. Mhm.
Just type in and it will come up, and that's where you can order the book. So Fernando, let's go here, because this is emotional intelligence. And so
Definitely.
the root is going to dictate the fruit.
Right.
And so please share just a little bit of how you begin to just navigate that, those situations.
I will say this, all right. As far as my relationship with my parents, once I got into college, once I got into college, I wanted to address some of the situations and circumstances that surrounded the things that my father and I went through with my
Yeah.
parents, and they didn't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. that,
And
that sounds about right.
that's a big thing for the parents out there. If your kids come to you wanting to talk to you about something, don't shut them down, because if you shut them down once, that might be it.
Mm-hmm.
Because some kids, they say, you know what? I will never forget when you shut me down when I try to come to you about something serious. So some kids may tend to apply that to any and everything, which
Yeah.
you don't want. You want your kids to be able to come to you about any and everything,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
And so when I went to my parents to try to talk to them about the things that, you know, that I was battling with emotionally from the past, they didn't want to talk about it. They shut it down. You know, my father would say, "Hey, listen, when we were going through what we were going through, it wasn't me, that was the drugs."
Yeah.
Which has some validity to it, but still,
Yes.
you know what I mean? It should be some accountability, you know? My mother didn't want to talk about it because she didn't want to talk about it for a couple of reasons. And the main reason was the main reason I know, and I knew, but that she didn't communicate with me, but I could tell, being
Yeah.
her son, is that it was a tough spot because she wasn't able to intervene. Um, but then also, um, I was told that it was my decision to stay with my father instead of just leaving with them.
Mm.
Now, this was a long time ago,
Yes. Yes.
and when I heard that, I was upset. I
Yeah.
was more than upset. I was like, well, hold
Yeah.
on, what type of response is that? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, after circling back, and right before I published my book, I spoke with my mother. We had a heart to
Yeah.
heart, and I was
Yeah.
able to understand what was taking place from her
Yeah.
point of view.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we get things from one side, but
There you
if we
go.
don't take the time out to try to understand both sides,
Yeah.
then it's always going to be a slant
Yeah.
to the story. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And after coming together and talking to her, and her telling me what was transpiring before she decided to leave, it made sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It made sense, and I could definitely understand why she chose to leave. You know?
That's so important, because I think a lot of people avoid having certain conversations with their parents out of fear, or out of how that person might react, how their parent might react, how that parent may shut down, how their parent may have treated them in the past. But they don't realize that having that conversation with their parent is for them, it's not for the parent. Like it's like the forgiveness is for you to get yourself off of the fishing line, not for your parent to reel you in. It is your responsibility for your healing. And so I heard someone say before that unforgiveness is like drinking poison, hoping that the other person gets sick,
Right.
right? And so, unfortunately, when we don't deal with the trauma and the pain of our past, what ends up happening is we end up bleeding on people that didn't cut us. And so sometimes we're going to have them, I call them courageous conversations, that no matter how they react, whether they take accountability, whether they don't, whether they say they're sorry, whether they don't, never allow the emotional reaction of someone else to dictate what you do. Because if you do that, now you're giving them the power over your freedom.
Right.
And freedom is ultimately what you experience and you are passing that on generationally. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you are doing now? What are some of the projects? How are you walking in the freedom from this story that has really just catapult what you do in the community?
Well, as of right now, what I'm attempting to do is get my book in everyone's hands, um, that that needs it.
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, with the state of our country, the way things are going, people need hope.
yeah,
There's so much negativity that's going on right now, and there's so many people out there that can't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
yeah,
But I know, not think, I know that if I'm able to share my story with everyone that I come in contact with, or everyone that's out there willing and able to listen,
yeah,
I know for a fact that I can motivate people to keep pushing on and
yeah.
persevering over their pain.
Yeah, I love that because that is something that people have to choose to do. Like you have to choose not to give up, and resilience is what is needed in these times. If you are not resilient, you are going to be tossed and fro by every emotion that you feel. You angry, you gonna blow up at somebody, right? You know, if you're feeling lonely, you're thinking about cutting yourself. There has to be regulation of your emotions in this moment and in this time. And that is where resilience comes in. That's where emotional intelligence comes in, because a lot of people think emotional intelligence is I yell at you, you don't yell at me. That is not emotional intelligence, right? Like that's not emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is not common sense. It's not something you were born with. It's a skill set that must be developed over time. It is not intellectual thinking. You can't get degrees and think you're emotionally intelligent just because you got a degree.
Right.
That's not emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is power, subconscious power management. Subconscious power management. So if somebody is yelling at me, you know, and immediately I go to rage, there's something on the inside of me that's driving this rage that is out of balance. And it might be an experience from when I was 8 years old and my father used to yell at me and I was never able to stand up for myself. And now I have outbursts of rage, right? So we have got to be so mindful in this season in order for us to be able to persevere, just like your book says, perseverance over pain, a survivor story. The only way that you are going to be able to thrive and not even just survive in this world is you got to be able to persevere over your pain. We're about to jump out because we're already over the time, actually, but we're having just such a good time in speaking. Fernando, I just want to leave just another, what is one final thought? If there's anything that we didn't talk about that you're like, you know what? The audience really needs to hear this, Joanna. And I don't want to get off this without them knowing this information. Can you give them one departing word before the podcast ends?
Can I please give two?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Give three.
All right.
No, just to go ahead.
All right. So the first one is, your circumstances do not define you. You
Yes.
define your circumstances. All right. So no matter what you're going through, do not let those circumstances defeat you. All right. You're stronger than whatever you're going through. Now, my second word is this. Um, if you know that there's something going on, or you suspect something's going on with a child, your inactivity can do more harm than what's going on in the actual household.
Mm, wow.
When I was coming up in Miami, it's what happens in his house stays in his house. But at the end of the day, I paid a price for that. You know, I wasn't in a particular household, but there were many people, from what I've heard after the fact, that would see me late night walking down the street, that
Mm,
would hear stories about what was taking place, that would not do anything.
mm,
Like, no one called social services, No one asked about my well-being. It was a lot of assuming going on. But that inactivity caused me to go through many years of pain, unnecessary pain and torment that I didn't really have to go through because of the inactivity of those in the community.
Wow.
And it was nothing but the grace of God that helped me survive through all of that in order to be who I am today.
Yeah.
So I do want to leave that to all the viewers and all the listeners. Like, get active. Don't talk about it, be about it. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to be all braggadocious about, standing 10 toes down about their family or about whoever. Do something. If you know something's going on that shouldn't be going on, do something.
Yeah. What about that whole snitches get stitches though? Like
Listen,
I don't know, Fernando. Snitches get
listen,
stitches. I mean, you
listen.
trying to get people out there?
I'm not even gonna get into that, but that mantra is dead and gone.
Dead and
If you
gone.
keep your ear to the streets like I do, that's dead and gone. Like, everybody
Yeah.
out there telling everything. So, and it's lucrative.
Yeah.
So if they're able to go out there and tell about the the negative things that they're doing, who am I not to go out there and tell the powers that be, hey, listen, you need to intervene with this situation because I know this is going on. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you can save lives.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And like I said before, thank God for my uncle. Thank God for him intervening when he did. But I can't even imagine if someone would have intervened earlier.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. 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 And but if they would have intervened earlier, who knows? Their story has shaped who you are. And that's the beautiful part about the grace that has been on your life, is that through everything that you've gone through, the grace of God has carried you through. And that's one of the beautiful things that I want to leave with people today. At the end of the day, no matter what you are going through, the only thing that is going to ever get you to the other side is going to be your focus on something that is greater than yourself. Your focus that is greater than all of the money that you have, all of the, the material things that you have, because you could be one incident away. Fernando had one incident that completely changed his life. You could be one incident away. And so I strongly encourage you in this season, don't give up. There's one thing that you learn in this podcast: don't give up, because there is a greater you on the other side of your pain. Turn your trauma into triumph and watch how your future generations is going to be grateful for the changes. Fernando Lennon, thank you so much. His book is on Amazon. It is where all books can be found. And it is his memoir, which is Perseverance Over Pain, a survival story. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Fernando, please continue to do the work that you are doing. You guys follow him on Instagram, follow him on Facebook. He is actually showing right now some of the places that him and his father used to be posted up. So you can go and look at, I just wanted to tease that a little bit, that he's actually going to those places and giving you a glimpse of what his life looked like when he was 10 years old, 11 years old. It will completely shock you. And so I want to thank you everyone for watching, and be here next time on our emotionally intelligent series, where you have to begin to take control over your life. One thought, one emotion,